All right, I got the privilege tonight of introducing Michael Christopher Lane, Vietnam POW, retired United States Air Force Colonel. Michael Christopher Lane, born in 1971 in New Haven, Connecticut, served the distinguished in the U.S. Air Force during the Vietnam War. Commissioned through Air Force ROTC at the University of Notre Dame in 1964, Lane flew F-4 Phantom II fighters. On December 2nd, 1966, during his 11th combat mission, he was shot down over North Vietnam and became a prisoner of war. Lane endured 2,271 days, over 6 years, in captivity at the notorious Hanoi Hilton. Demonstrating exceptional courage and resilience, released during Operation Homecoming on February 18, 1973, he continued his Air Force career, serving as various leadership roles and retiring as a colonel in 1988. Lane's numerous decorations include the Silver Star for gallantry as a POW, 2 Legion Merit Awards, a Distinguished Flying Cross, the Bronze Star with V device, and the Purple Heart. Testament to his valor and sacrifice and service in his country. His extraordinary courage, unwavering valor, and profound sacrifice stand second to only those who gave their lives in service to our nation. A true testament to the unbreakable spirit of American lives. Please join me in welcoming Mr. Michael Lane.
Thank you. I think all of you, probably all of you, remember a gentleman called Hanoi Stevenson? Yeah. He was giving a speech one time in Illinois, and he started his speech by saying, my job is to give you a speech. Your job is to listen. I'll attempt to finish my job before you finish yours. Okay, I was there for, as he said, 2,270 days. A lot of people ask me, well, how the hell did you do that? I mean, that was a heck of a long time. And I'll tell you, the day I was shot down, I would have asked the same question if I'd known I was going to be there for that long. What I would like to do this evening is give you 6 principles upon reflection over the years of how we did what we did. The first thing that we did was we did what we had to do. I think the vast majority of us remember the U.S. Serviceman's Code of Conduct. I'm an American fighting man. I served in the forces which guard my country and my way of life, and I'm prepared to give my life in their defense. In its defense. Now, ladies, they've changed the wording now because back in the 50s when they wrote that, there were no women in the service. They were in combat, so they've since rectified that in the current code. But in there, the third item says that I will evade answering further. If captured, I will only give name, rank, service number, and date of birth. In fact, it says I am bound to give only name, rank, service number, and date of birth. And I will evade answering further questions that are detrimental to the United States and its allies or to its cause. And that is what I walked in with. That was my mantra. That was all of our mantra. And the day I was shot down, I was captured within 5 minutes. I landed in a dried out rice paddy, and it was pretty easy to find. That night they drove me all the way to Hanoi, so I spent the night bouncing in the back of a truck to Vietnam. I got there at dawn the next day and entered the Hanoi Hilton, which is where I think probably all of us entered, kind of our initial interrogations. And yes, we were tortured. Matter of fact, through the beginning of 1968, I believe the statistic is 95% of us were tortured. And I'm pretty positive that none of us were able to withstand it, and we all had to give them something, which for me For me, it was rather simple. I mean, I was there for a grand total of 20 days before I was shot down. I had been a pilot. I had been a pilot for just about a year, so I was still a junior pilot. I didn't know anything. I was almost a private, really, as far as the Air Force was concerned. So when they asked me stuff like, hell, I don't know. What's your squadron commander name? I don't know. I haven't met him yet. So they didn't like that answer, so I had to make up a name. So that's what I did. I lied. Telling them the truth was I don't know anything, didn't work. So yeah, I went through torture. I went through it twice. First they got me to write a confession, and then I had to make a tape of it. That was exciting. But again, I had nothing to talk about, so I rambled on for nothing. I think they were more happy with me, particularly just to break me down, and just to get me to do something I didn't want to do, rather than really gain anything meaningful from me. But needless to say, I did suffer the pain, and I gave them as little as I could. Let me get back to my six. I know they're in there. My 6 points. First was, you know what you had to do, which was I went through and gave as little as I had to give to satisfy them. The second one was to do the best we could. After I left the Hanoi Hilton, after about a week of that torture program, I went to another camp called the Zoo, and I was locked in a room by myself, which is where basically I stayed for the next year and a half. I had to talk to somebody. We had to communicate. That was our job. We had to talk to each other. We were military officers. We were bound to stay united and have a common goal. So we had to communicate. How do we do that? Well, early on, a gentleman who had been at a survival school asked just a curiosity question to one of these briefers about, well, what did they do in World War II to communicate? And he talked about a code that they had in World War II where they would bang on steam pipes between buildings to communicate back and forth. So we took that code and we modified it a little bit. We came up with our TAP code, which was a matrix of 5 by 5, 5 rows, 5 columns. We left out the letter K, and then you would make a series of tasks. What row you're in, slight pause, a series of tasks, what column you're in, and that was the letter. And after a while, it just became second nature. We still contact each other right now, 50 years later, and it's ingrained. Okay, so we communicated. What did that do? Well, once we were able to get information from other buildings within the camp, we knew when pardon me, Larry. I got to find out if I'm still here. We needed to find out what the Vietnamese were going to do. Talk to me. Okay, we needed to find out what the Vietnamese were going to do to us, so they would start these periodic, what we call purges, where they would start, come on, they'd start torturing us in one building, and then we would pass that word throughout the rest of the camp. Hey, purge is underway. Go into your loins, here it comes. So we had time to prepare when that situation finally reached us. So we kept together that way. Okay, we did the best we could. We stayed united. We had a set of orders that were put out by the senior ranking men that it took a while for it to pass around, but we finally got all the orders stated by the senior rank guys, and we followed their orders. After we were feeling like slugs for the first year and a half, which was pretty severe conditions. We were in 1 and 2 man rooms that were pretty well all bricked up. So in the summertime, it turned into an oven, and we were just in a full sweat 24 hours a day. And we were bathing maybe once a week, so our bodies were just covered with body oil and just really filthy conditions. But after 67, things started to improve as far as living conditions were concerned. We moved into larger rooms. We ended up in an 8-man room, and now it wasn't as bad temperature-wise. So now we're able to start doing things like telling stories to each other. A lot of guys sitting. You know, it's amazing what you can remember when you're sitting in a room 24/7 with, you know, absolutely nothing to do. You only can pick your nose for so long before, you know, that gets bloody. So we started reciting poetry back to each other. A lot of guys had phenomenal memories. They could recite books to us, and we started classes. We started learning foreign languages. The guys that were shot down, the average age was in the late 30s, so they were, you know, senior captains, majors, lieutenant colonels, full colonels, and then there was first lieutenant. So we learned a lot of information from each other. We kept our minds going. One guy actually wrote poetry, damn good poetry. Matter of fact, he has a book out called Taps on the Wall that he's published. It talks about the poetry that he wrote while he was a POW. We did everything we could to keep our minds going, and we also decided to start doing calisthenics to try and get our bodies back in shape. And we started doing sit-ups, push-ups, anything, jumping jacks. A lot of times we were a little bit inhibited on being able to do that because, as we all know, we all suffer from injuries, and some of our body members didn't work all that well. We did what we could had available. So we chose to grow both physically and mentally. We didn't want to come home and being a basket case mentally or physically. So we did.
Can I get the batteries? Let me try the batteries, sir. Let me try the batteries.
We did what we could. We also kept our sense of humor. Technology is a wonderful thing. So we also kept our sense of humor. A lot of ways it was difficult to do that. We didn't go around telling jokes on each other. Let me just say that we remained being lighthearted. We came up with activities. What did I do with the thing? Oh no. We came up with activities to keep ourselves occupied. One of the things we did since the Vietnamese wouldn't give us any playing cards to play with, we made our own. They're small because the Vietnamese didn't want us to have playing cards, and they'd always come and take them away from us. So we kept them very small, like this. This example has the letter Q on it, meaning queen, and there's a little emoji of a heart, so this is the Queen of Hearts. And we had 52 of these, and we played cards, put them out on our little fans that they gave us so we wouldn't sweat to death. And then each night we would take these and we'd hide them. You couldn't hide them with in the room, because the Vietnamese would come in periodically, they'd sweep the room, take everything that we had apart, strip us down naked, make sure we weren't hiding anything on our body, and of course they would take these, so we kept them outside, hidden away. Another thing we did when it was a target of opportunity, one day it rained real hard during the monsoon season, and as it happened, two toads came into our little courtyard of 8 people, and we said, we're going to have a race. We have 2 toads, we're going to call one 409, we're going to go the other one little deuce scoop. We're going to stand beside each other. There's going to be one guy standing behind each. We're going to start pounding the ground behind them and see who gets to the goal line first. So that was the race that we had. All the way through, we kept our sense of humor. The very last one I want to talk about is keeping the faith. We had to keep faith in ourselves. Tomorrow the sun's going to rise, and I'm going to be there to greet it. We're going to keep faith with each other. If someone is down, we're going to try and pick them up. If they're injured or sick, we're going to help them to get better. There it is. Okay, we're going to keep faith with our families. God knows they were suffering too, as man mentioned to us earlier. Each Sunday, we would meet. You know, when we had meetings, we always had perfect attendance. Just throw that in there. Each Sunday morning, the building SRO would tap out the letter C. Usually that meant the coast is clear to communicate, but on Sundays it meant church. So each of us would get together, and if we were with another guy, we'd all stand up, we'd face America, and we'd recite the Pledge of Allegiance, and we'd recite the Lord's Prayer. Keeping faith with our country and with our God. So those are the 5 things we did. We did what we had to do. We did the best we could. We chose to grow, kept our sense of humor, kept the faith. And that's what we do tonight. We should do tonight. Keep those in mind. Thank you for listening to me. I try to keep it as quick as I can. You're going to have to bring me back again and let me talk for hours. 6.5 years is a long time.
Ladies and gentlemen, Michael and Christopher Lang.